And so we always call tails because tails never heads. All right, yep. Moving on, we got our Jirachi start, and we'll see what we're going up against. And it is a pretty solid start, I would say, against Tina Star, just because they are going to likely be playing the slow game in order to set up a Sableye in this matchup. And the early path to the peak would feel worse if we didn't have that vacuum in hand. And as we are checking our first prizes, we are going to realize that I had them on my boogie board over here, but I erased that and don't remember what they were. Okay, so, but mind you, we do have our prizes written down at this point. And moving on, we are going to go here to try and set up the Charizard, because it's going to be unlikely that we can get the Charizard and the Pidgeot if we put down the Charizard Pidgey here, because we are lacking draw power and the ability to search those out. I am going to dump my boss because it's not as critical in this matchup as getting that potential early knockout on Giratina V with a choice belt if that comes up. And it looks like it just might, because our opponent is dropping energy on his Tina V and potentially preparing it for a shred. So he does get that path to the peak. And right here, I am regretting that I didn't attach fire on the prior turn to the Charmander, so that a rare candy Charmander could still attack right after. So I'm realizing that, looking for my play. I do go for the Charizard under path just to ensure that it is established before Iono, and we are gonna go ahead and try to get our board as set up as possible, given the fact that we are under path. And it's back to our opponent. We do have a Iono in hand, so this does allow us to go Charmeleon Iono next turn very conveniently. Opponent is at I think I checked it at this point in the match. I feel like they're close to 4 in the zone at this point. And just like I mentioned before, we are here going to see the Charmeleon evolution, I believe. No. Got the Arven, so Psych. It does make the most sense here to drop the Arven and establish our Pidgeot. So, yeah, I don't know how people were playing this deck without Arven before, and it just feels so weird. Because, yeah, so right here also, I think this is another misplay on my part. I should have attached the Forest Stone. Well, I should have considered attaching the Forest Stone. I didn't want to just attach it and get it knocked by a Lost Impact, which was very well represented on board, with opponent able to use concealed cards and just attach Psychic Boss to the Tina Star in order to dunk on our Rotom. Fortunately, he does just attach energy to another Tina Star and pass here. Looks like opponent really should have held onto that Psychic Energy. A little bit confused about where he's going with that, but seems like he does not want to put a regular Giratina V in the active to avoid that situation I mentioned earlier, where it could be knocked out with the Choice Belt, which is also already on board, so it's very clearly represented. And here we are able to set up Candy Pidgeot, and the Pidgeot is actually going to grab here, I believe I grab a Stadium to try to be ready to bump his Stadium and potentially also collapse away our Rotom V later. Yep. And so that I do believe was correct, and here we are able... I had really wanted to set up both Charizards and grab a Switch Cart with a Pidgeot, but I do believe the Stadium was correct, because without it we could be put in an awkward situation. And I think I value being able to search with Pidgeot every turn over being able to probably attack every turn. Just because that quick search is going to allow us to it's also going to allow us to attack. An opponent does capitalize on the situation here and take the Pidgeot knockout, which, and actually this brings up another good point. causes this situation where, very fortunately, I chose not to use the Lost Vacuum by Lost Zoning this TM Devolution, which is now in my hand and stays in my hand until it is useful during this game. We are able to now here chip on both Giratinas, and that does end up setting a big devolution play for us. I like where that went. Now, this was another misplay. I had a Super Rod in my hand before I did this shuffle away. I should have put a Pidgey back in the deck. What I had wanted out of this was actually I wanted the Pidgey from the Elder Ball to begin setting that up again in the event that I'd be able to use it. Unfortunately, I did not realize I had no Pidgey left in deck. Should have kept track of that better. And I do grab the Lumineon. However, the Lumineon does end up being extremely useful here, in that I am able to grab my Arven, which, Charizard DX has a very, very convenient toolbox of cards that allows us to pretty much handle most situations. I almost accidentally grabbed something to set up before realizing I do have my counter catcher and 5 prizes, so I can get this chip damage that is essential on the Giratina VSTAR. Given that he's already used his Star Requiem, all he can do is chip, and I believe I have a very good draw here. Yep, Professor's Research is excellent. I'm not planning to Radzard here. I already essentially have this last Charizard ready to attack, and especially with that research, yep, I do get the fire, so I've got him on deck, ready to go, followed by here, I do actually put the cards that I needed back in the deck. Pidgey comes down just in case. Already get the candy, and we hit the massive 4 prize devolution. So this game is pretty much locked up. I believe opponent keeps playing here under the impression that he can potentially boss something up and attack around it with Sableye. Unfortunately for him, we do have the Jirachi here to prevent any strategy like that. I believe he concedes a little bit early here, but that's potentially untrue because I do have the Jirachi to stop his Sableye.